Hello, Trailblazers. My name is Kenneth Shapiro. Today I'm joined by Irfan Syed, and we're going to be telling you how to deploy secure mobile applications leveraging Salesforce. Now, before we get too far into it, we will be talking about some features that are not generally available just yet, so please base your purchasing decisions off of only what is generally available already. So you've probably seen this slide about 40 times now, but if you haven't already, be sure to scan that QR code and fill out the feedback form. It helps us a lot, and it helps us make sure that we give you guys the best presentations every single year. Now, this event would not be possible without the support of all of you. So thank you. Thank you for coming to support us at TDX, and thank you for making our product the best that they possibly can be with your feedback. Now, why don't I introduce myself? My name is Kenneth Shapiro. I'm a product manager on Mobile Publisher, and I'm joined today by Irfan Syed, a director of product management for Salesforce Mobile App and Salesforce Mobile App Plus. Today, we are going to be beginning by why mobile security matters. And then we'll be following it up with how you can actually secure your mobile experience leveraging Salesforce Mobile App Plus. And we'll be finishing with security with Mobile Publisher. Irfan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kenneth. As you can see, Kenneth is a bundle of energy, and this presentation is going to be a mixture of slides, but also plenty of live demos, so strap in. We really appreciate you joining in at 3:30. I know you're competing with a lot of other talks, so let's actually give something that really matters to you, which is security. So I'm sure all of us have a mobile phone. And if you don't, I'd love to know how you manage your day-to-day without a mobile phone. But what that means is today, we already live in a mobile-first consumer world. And more than 50% of today's internet traffic is getting generated through mobile apps and mobile browsers. But in some cases, you do not want that. You do not want the data to go out of the app. These are some of the internal threats that we have to think about as we move from an enterprise world more and more to mobile. So how many of you are IT leaders or run a team today in your organization? Let's see some hands. Great. So these are some of the questions you're probably thinking of when you're rolling out an application. Probably the most common one is you probably have an MDM store, but when you are using personal devices, these are some of the questions you want to ask. How do I enforce the flexibility to my employees to use their personal device, but also have some granular control about my enterprise data when they use it on the Salesforce mobile app? This includes application management. How do I enforce policies? Today, when you have an MDM store, you can enforce things like minimum OS. You can enforce things like updating your OS version so that there's a new security patch that Google or Apple may have released that you actually force the users, remind them to do it. How do you enforce network restrictions? How do you enforce OS security? These are the questions where 90% of the folks who run IT departments are probably thinking of when you want to trade personal device use of your enterprise apps. So effectively, how do we do things at Salesforce? The reason why me and Kenneth are on stage, because we represent two spears of the spectrum. My role is as a Salesforce mobile app and App Plus for the enterprises, the B2B world. Kenneth's primarily in the B2C with Mobile Publisher. Both of these applications, both of these pillars, when you're using the Salesforce apps, it comes with encrypted industry standard baseline protection. This is enterprise encryption, remote data wipe, because we all use connected apps. So should there be any sort of security breach, your admins have the power to log users out and wipe the data off the particular app. That is baseline. It comes out of the box with everything that we do. From a B2B perspective, primarily you may be familiar with MDM. MDM is the most common way of distributing apps so that you can enforce certain policies. But it has some limitations in the sense that you have to, in some cases, provision your corporate devices with MDM. These are getting better year on year, but still there's an element of provisioning by your IT department that has to happen here. And when you're using an MDM provider, it's usually limited to one MDM vendor per device, so you cannot mix and match. And also, there's unclear liability of personal data. For example, if you're somebody who uses Google Slides, for example, if you're using an iPhone, the only way you can actually manage the data is by switching profiles on the same app. But if my IT department chooses to wipe the apps off my phone, where is the liability? Maybe I have some personal things that were local on my device that didn't get synced. The liability becomes unclear when you have an MDM involved here, especially because you're dealing with multiple apps. That's where mobile application management comes in. That's why we're all here to talk about enhanced mobile app security, specifically at an app level. So a MAM solution, effectively, it is reactive, meaning we do it at a dynamic runtime. When you're using the app, that's when we enforce them. There's no preemptive nature to this. It is always done at runtime. If something changes from the policies you've configured, or maybe your policies have changed, we enforce it when the app comes in the foreground. And this is suitable for, this is the main selling point of personal devices. Again, talking about all the security risks that you were talking about, when you are centering your device management to a single app, you can basically preemptively apply this in a way that it works with personal apps as well. So you can have your Twitter, Facebook, whatever, your personal device, the ones that you use to communicate with your family, and you can have the Salesforce mobile app or the mobile publisher app. And the beauty of this is MAM can also work with MDM providers. So for example, if Salesforce app or mobile publisher is not provisioned by your MDM provider, maybe you're using Intune, for example, you can actually continue using that. And then for Salesforce, you can enforce an MAM solution or so on. You can mix and match these from a vendor perspective. And if you choose to use Intune's MAM solution for Microsoft apps, for example, you can also have the Salesforce mobile app plus enhanced security for these particular. So you can mix and match combinations on this. And personal data is never impacted because it's siloed to our app. Salesforce mobile app, mobile publisher. It's siloed to that. And this is basically something that applies to both the B2B, B2C. That's why the word B2E is in there. And what this effectively does, it gives you the enterprise protection, which is effectively jailbreak detection, network integrity, and policy enforcements. We have about 30 policies. We'll go through a quick demo on what these look like today. So what exactly is enhanced security for the Salesforce Mobile App Plus and Mobile Publisher? It basically is the ability to configure security policies at scale. We've partnered with multiple highly regulated industries to come together on the Mobile App Plus side for have about 30 security policies for iOS and about 15 for Android. And we're evolving it. We update it with every release as and when new security threats are discovered. Defending against threats is the main purpose of these policies. And restricting unauthorized use, again, I mentioned copy pasting. That is the primary use case. You don't want your data to be shared around without you having some sort of a control over how your data is basically shared. And data loss as well. Making sure that like sharing of files, again, a primary use case. How do we ensure there's no file sharing that has sensitive information from Salesforce? All of these are controlled through an admin screen. We'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes on how we're doing this. So I'm going to be talking about the Salesforce Mobile App Plus, and I have a demo to show you, and then I'm going to hand it off to Kenneth for Mobile Publisher. But effectively in Mobile App Plus, this is, again, Salesforce Mobile App. This is a feature on top of Salesforce Mobile App. Specifically, for those I see some familiar faces who may have attended the Mobile Offline, Mobile Builder talk early today. This enhanced security is part of the same SKU. When you basically have Salesforce Mobile App Plus, you get mobile offline, you get mobile security, and the ability to brand the app. That's where we live here. And as I mentioned, this allows the admin to control certain specific things. We have about 30 policies and 3 types of error categorization. You can warn the user. Ideally, when there's an iOS version, there's a patch release. Maybe right now it's 17.3.1. You want your users to update it because maybe Apple's fixed some patch releases. You can have that as a warning. So next time the user logs on to the app, they basically see a warning saying, hey, update your app. Next is error. When you classify something as an error, effectively the access to the app is blocked until that is resolved. This could be basically something like you maybe have not updated your OS for a while, so now you've bumped up the priority of that error from warning to an error. That's another scenario in which you can block the user to take action, force them to take action. The more, the kind of the nuclear option in this is critical error. Because you warn the user that a policy has actually been violated, you also log them out post that. because that is considered too risky for you to use the app. And this is effectively something that enforces some of the highly kind of visible things. For example, we're going to go through a demo in which I may have Kenneth's phone, and I am trying to access the Salesforce mobile app. If you have a policy for biometric enablement, and it detects that, hey, this is not the user that I actually need to kind of verify, you can basically block it and log the user out. So enough of the slides. Let's actually see a demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into my org, and I've already kind of searched. So for those of you admins in the crowd, this is probably a pretty familiar screen. This is the admin setup. When you search for mobile security, you're basically taken to all your connected apps that are configured for this particular org. I'm going to go in to the Salesforce for iOS security policy, and I have a bunch of security policies in here. For example, server certificate pinning. This is something that you can configure, and this allows you to kind of ensure that users, the users for whom certificates are actually configured are the ones logging in. The most popular ones, the out-of-the-box ones that we usually enable are block jailbroken devices. Jailbroken devices usually have traditional unusual system permissions. We have detection for that. Man-in-the-middle attack is another one. For the purpose of this demo, I'm actually going to go with something simple, but yet very powerful, which is checking the biometric login. So I have this enabled, and I've basically classified this as a critical error, meaning I need to kind of validate this before I actually allow the users to use the app. So let's actually see a demo of this. Okay, so this is, again, I actually went ahead and did it. I took Kenneth's phone without his knowledge. So I'm actually going to go and log into Salesforce mobile app, and oops, I'm unable to kind of log in because this is not my phone, it's Kenneth's phone. So effectively, I can basically block the user like this, and when I'm unable to log in, the critical error is shown to the user. I basically cannot do anything. Because it's critical, I have actually been logged out, telling the user exactly what happened here. You have a critical policy that has been violated, fix it. And you cannot access the data. Now, especially in highly regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, this is basically table stakes. Having the ability for an app level to have some enforced critical policies that do not get violated, and you can protect the data. So this is the B2B side of things. I'm going to now hand it off to Kenneth to talk about the B2C aspects of mobile publisher.
Thank you, Irfan. What a great demo, guys. Can we give him a hand? Perfect. So let's talk about what we're doing to enable secure applications with Mobile Publisher. But before we can do that, some of you may have never heard of Mobile Publisher before. So why don't I give you a little bit of insight into what Mobile Publisher is. Mobile Publisher enables you to take an experienced cloud site that you've built already and easily convert it into a bespoke mobile application. And not only can you do that, but you can access native mobile device capabilities, such as push notification, location services, calendar, contacts, the list goes on. And once you've enabled those features through custom LWCs, you can then deploy that app to the app stores, Apple and Android, and then we can fully manage that application for you, allowing you to take a simple experience site experience and then build a robust mobile application to deploy at scale. So how can we take some of those enhanced security functionalities and actually apply them to Mobile Publisher? Well, let me give you a little bit of insight into what we've done so far. So here we have a Mobile Publisher application, Capricorn Healthcare. Let's go look at how the setup actually works for this. So we're in our Mobile Publisher setup panel. As you can see, we've gone through and we've configured all of our Apple policies. We've added our app icons. And you may notice a new section in here called Enhanced Mobile App Security Integration Pilot. That's right. This is a pilot available to you today. We've launched this pilot in February, and we're targeting our June or July release for GA. So we've gone through and we've enabled this. And don't worry, you don't have to click Submit. We automatically save your preference. So we've enabled enhanced mobile security. How do we actually go through and configure this? So this may look slightly familiar. I think you saw it about maybe 3 to 5 minutes ago. So now that we're in our mobile security setup panel, you'll notice that for mobile publisher applications specifically, we only have 3 different policies available today. That's block jailbroken device, block man-in-the-middle attack, and enforce a minimum app version, an OS version. And you may also notice that we do have those 3 different levels that Irfan mentioned earlier. You have critical, error, and warn. And in addition to that, you'll see an effective date and time. What this allows you to do is actually configure a critical or an error state and then set a date that you want it to go into effect. So let's say you've rolled out a mobile publisher application and you're enforcing security for the first time. You may want to inform your users on jailbroken devices that come 10 days from now, they're going to be locked out of the application unless they change this. What that means is I've configured a critical error to take effect 10 days in the future. Up until then, they're actually going to get a warning telling them that that policy is going to be taking effect. So now that we've set up our enhanced mobile security and mobile publisher, and we've configured all of our different policies, as you can see, we've set minimum OS to 20 here, let's actually assign this to the different users that we want these security policies to take effect for. So there are a couple different ways to do this. You could do this using profiles, or you could do this using a permission set. So we're in profiles right now for our user. Let's look for enhanced mobile app security. It is as easy as this. All you have to do is go to the profile that you want this to apply to and simply check that box. And you can also have different users using your mobile publisher application that do not have these security policies applying to them. So you can have admin users or normal users with different policies enabled. So I've configured this. We've set it up and set up. We've gone through, we've decided which policies we want, and we've enabled it for the profiles. Let's actually see how this applies in-app. So here we have Capricorn Healthcare. We just set that policy. Let's open it and see what happens. As you can see, I'm instantly blocked from using the application. These policies can take effect in real time as they're configured, so long as the build that you have is already enabled with enhanced mobile app security. This is the power of this new feature. But that's not all we're doing with Mobile Publisher. We've also been investing very heavily in biometrics. Biometrics are a key functionality for mobility, both in terms of securing your application and in terms of providing ease of use. So the first functionality we're going to be talking about that is available today is Biometrics on Demand. Biometrics on Demand is powered by Nimbus Biometrics. Nimbus Biometrics allows you to build a custom LWC to prompt a biometrics display whenever you decide you want it. So we've had a number of customers in regulated industries who want to be able to validate that a user is who they claim to be before they're allowed to take certain actions. Think sending a payment to someone. Or maybe I want to view sensitive data like profile information or insurance numbers, and I want to make sure that the user is who they claim to be before we allow them to do that. So what you can actually do here is we have a little sample code snippet for you there. You can build this custom LWC and embed it within your Experience site. And if you already have a mobile publisher application, you don't need to deploy it. All you need to do is click Publish, and all of your updates to your Experience site will instantly be updated with this new functionality. But that's not all we're doing with biometrics. As I mentioned, biometrics are key to reducing friction in an application. So one of the things that we've been working on is opt-in biometrics on login. Yes, if you have mobile publisher, I know this is a request of yours. Now, we've been doing biometrics for a while now, and we do have an existing biometrics experience today. This is configurable via connected app custom attribute, and the flow that you see is when you log into the app for the first time, you do get prompted to use Face ID or PIN. And if you choose to accept one of those, then you'll be able to access the application just fine. However, the main problem we see today is if you choose to not accept either PIN or biometrics, you actually can't use the mobile publisher application, which is extremely limiting to a lot of customers that want to scale. So we've completely reviewed our new opt-in biometrics experience, and we have some exciting changes to show you. So much like the similar experience, when you log in for the first time, you will be prompted for Face ID. But instead of the old experience, you now have the choice. You can either accept it and then use biometrics going forward, or you could simply choose to deny it and continue on using your username and password. But how is this actually enabled? As I mentioned earlier, the existing biometrics works through a connected app attribute. As you can see, that one on the bottom is the legacy experience. And if you want to upgrade to the new experience, all you need to do are add the 2 new custom attributes. And anyone who's on the older experience will instantly be upgraded without having any regression in experience. Now, another thing you'll notice here is that there are 2 connected app attributes here. You have your enable biometrics, and then you have a timeout value. Well, we're all familiar with session timeout values and OAuth timeout values. This is a new one. For mobile publishers specifically, you can configure how frequently your biometrics prompt is actually going to show up when the user backgrounds the application. So if I background the application, and this is set to 5 minutes, after 5 minutes of the app being backgrounded and then pulling it back up, I'm going to get prompted for biometrics. So how does this actually work? If I have biometrics enabled, when I reopen the app, you'll notice that the user is now redirected to the login screen that you can see there on the left. And they're prompted for Face ID if they've chosen to opt in. If they have chosen not to opt in, the user will still be rerouted to the login screen, as you can see in that middle slide there, and they can choose to log in with username and password as usual. But what if I'm a user that's gone through the entire process and I dismiss the biometrics request on the first time? Well, we've thought about that too. If you choose to go through this flow, you can actually tap the Use Face ID button, and then you can re-opt into the biometrics experience even if you missed it the first time. This is not available in the existing experience. But that wasn't quite so easy. That whole Use Face ID button, it's far more complicated than you might think. And this posed a big problem for us on Mobile Publisher. One of the main value propositions of Mobile Publisher is you can have a fully customized, branded experience built on top of Salesforce. And how can we provide a customizable button which would work for all customers, is restricted to just Mobile Publisher, and ensure that it triggers our new biometrics? And the way that we were able to do this was, thankfully, due to the aforementioned Nimbus Biometrics plugin, we can link your login screen with the publisher native experience. And by using user context within an LWC, we can provide a customizable, brandable, and scalable Face ID button on the login screen, enabling users to retry if they fail the first time, or if they want to opt in later, they now can. And if this sounds like a lot of work, don't worry. You don't have to use this, but it is a functionality that we wanted to make available to everyone. I hope that you guys have enjoyed. Thank you so much for coming. We have lots of exciting stuff coming your way. Now, I know it's here again, but if this is your last presentation of the day, you might as well go through and fill out the QR code and do the form for free coffee. Who doesn't love a $5 gift card? We'll now do our Q&A, and if you do want to learn more about mobile at Salesforce, we do have a QR code for you to scan as well. We're taking questions now. If anyone has questions, feel free to come up to the middle.
Yeah. Anybody has any questions from what you see, you can just walk up to the mic.
So I'm assuming that this would work for the Salesforce One app, but if we're doing the mobile SDK instead, will the detecting jailbreak and everything of that nature still work?
With mobile SDK?
Yeah, still using connected app. So.
Yeah, so no, it won't work with mobile. And here's the reason why, right? So we actually use highly vetted vendors to kind of compile our binary in order to facilitate some of these things. And mobile SDK, it's a SDK for you to have a headless APIs to Salesforce. Yeah. But because some of these are system level things that we use a vendor for, as of right now, these won't apply to mobile SDK.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a great question, though.
So I was just wondering for the enablement of the new biometrics, I saw that it was a custom attribute, and I'm just wondering, is this a temporary thing? Will there be an actual button to enable this in the future? And why did we start with the custom attribute?
So that is a great question. Mobile Publisher is built both using the client application as well as the platform. And as you know, the platform releases 3 times a year. Because we're in a mobile space, we can release more frequently than that. And so Mobile Publisher actually releases 6 times a year. What we were able to do is by using that connected app attribute, we didn't have to wait for a new Salesforce platform release to come out with this new functionality. Longer term, we do plan on adding this to the Mobile Publisher setup or experience builder for you to actually be able to go in and toggle it on. Mobile Publisher is a low to no code solution, and we want to make sure that things are as straightforward as possible.
That's perfect. Thank you.
And for those of you wondering how often we make releases, this is one delta between the core release and the mobile apps. Mobile Publisher releases 6 times a year. We actually, on the Salesforce mobile app side, every 2 weeks is what we look at. We average about 13 to 16 releases, accounting for holidays. So having some of these connected app attributes is a very common pattern for us because it enables us to get around the core release dependencies that we usually have.
I'll ask a question. Does enhanced mobile security come for free with Mobile Publisher? The answer is if you already have a Mobile Publisher license and you have the SKU, yes. Enhanced mobile security is coming to Mobile Publisher free of charge because you already pay for Mobile Publisher.
While mobile security is not free for the Salesforce mobile app, what we want to do is give you more value for the SKU. So that's why you get mobile offline and branding, for which Salesforce mobile app uses Mobile Publisher's publishing engine with these things. So if you're one of those who really want to have your branding and your consistent behavior across the board on the Salesforce mobile app and have the policies without distributing to MDM, that's the value prop of Salesforce Mobile App Plus. And it's been particularly popular in healthcare as well as financial services, which are highly regulated industries and have enterprise sales use cases. Okay, for those of you shy, don't want to come up to stage, it's fine. Me and Kenneth will hang out for about 10 minutes here for any off-the-stage questions. We, again, really thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I know this is towards the end of TDX. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Hope you have a safe journey back home. And you can find us on LinkedIn. If you have any further questions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help. And in the meanwhile, if you have any off-the-stage questions, we are right here and we can answer any questions. Thank you.